Hi, everyone. It's Henry DeVries. I run a company called Indie Books International. Thanks for coming today. And wherever two or more are gathered in book publishing, there we want to be. So Devin and I are glad you're here. We've got some other people coming in. But I see Bob, one of our authors, is here, and Janet is here. Bob, I'd love to hear why you came today to the Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit.
Because I want to write a new book.
A new book?
Yes.
That's interesting. Do you have what the new book is about yet?
I do. I have it outlined, and I need to move forward on it. So I'm looking to get re-energized a bit to listen to those things I've heard you discuss before, but don't always take the first time or two.
Well, you're in a different place each time you hear it, so it's different things for you.
Absolutely.
Mason, welcome. I was curious, what brought you here today? Is it more about writing a book, publishing a book, promoting a book?
Well, I will say it's more about your expertise in all these areas. Having read a number of your columns, knowing of your work, and I'm in the process of writing a book, and I figure, you know, who better to speak to than one of the experts that keep popping up in my feed?
Well, thanks, Mason. Actually, that's my clone does all that work. I wouldn't have time to write all those books and articles and still run a company.
Well, then I suggest you share a piece of the proceeds with him. Beyond that, I'm still impressed.
Yeah.
Henry's clone is pretty smart too.
just one, you know, it's like when you make Xerox copies of something after a while, yeah. You just don't want to clone the clone, that's all. Janet, I don't know, would you like to share what brought you in today and what you're hoping to get out of this? Not to put you on the spot.
Sorry, I'm not able to talk from where I am.
Oh, never mind.
So I'm going to be listening. If I can, I will after, which is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and mostly because I am interested in writing a book, and I work with other people who are writing books, etc. I'm a coach, and I want to help them and give them some of your guidance and refer them to you.
Got it. Okay, thanks. Fred, would you like to share what brought you here today and what we can tailor what we cover in the hour? So that's why I asked this question.
Hey, it's good to see you. Hey, by the way, Janet and I worked together like 30 years ago at Apple Computers, so it's good to see her.
Who was that?
She doesn't remember me, but she was
sorry,
a sales.
who are you?
My name is Fred Diamond. I was at Apple Federal back in the late 80s. I think you were as well.
Oh my gosh, Frank, how do you spell your last name? I-M-A-N?
Yeah, I-M-A-N.
Oh, funny. Okay, thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, we actually had this conversation over LinkedIn. No, Henry, it's great to see you. So I'm very excited to see what you have to say. I got to drop off at 25 after the hour, but my apologies.
So Fred, I won't take that personally, but if you mean it personally, write in the chat, you know, like I hate you, and then we'll just be clear.
Yeah, I do mean it personally, but I don't hate you.
Okay, thanks for coming. Well, I'm going to start with a story. If you've heard this story before, I'll try to tell it better this time. The year is 2015. The place is Memphis, Tennessee. We're in a 800 square foot apartment that Penny Reed shares with her teenage daughter. And Penny is sitting at the kitchen table and she has a stack of bills. She has no idea how she's going to pay these bills. She has zero money coming in. This apartment was a far cry from the 4,000 square foot home she shared with her former husband, who was also her employer, who also gave her all her client work. So no house, no employer, no client work. And that's when I met Penny Reed. Now, Penny is a special woman. I hope you get to meet her one day, because Penny knew if you're going to dream, why not dream big? So she said at that kitchen table, in 2 years, I am going to be making $200,000 a year as a author and speaker. Now, that's when we met. And the first thing is business model. I said, Penny, what do you know how to do better than anything? And she says, oh, I've got this. I know how to help a dentist grow their business. And let me tell you, dentists are screwed up people because they borrow all this money to go to college, and they borrow more money to go to graduate school. Then they get out of graduate school and they borrow more money to set up a practice. And they think they own a business. In fact, the business owns them. They're going to be spending the rest of their life as this indentured servant paying off all this debt until they can finally get it paid off and retire, or they can sell this thing to somebody else. He says, but I know how to give them cash flow and time to enjoy life. And I said, oh my gosh, bingo, we have a business model. And Penny says, oh, okay. So what's the plan? Is the plan we write this book and then I go out and speak and then people like me and then they talk to me about paid speaking and then maybe some for consulting? And I said, oh no, that's not the model at all. The model is I want you to start making one phone call a day. One phone call a day. And she goes, but first, wait, do we have this provocative title for the book? I said, oh, I've got the title for your book. Are you ready? She goes, yeah, I'm ready. I said, Growing Your Dental Business. It's what they want. It's what you know how to do. And these calls I'm making, said Penny, who am I calling? I said, you're calling people who book speakers to talk to dentists and dentists who might hire a consultant. Penny said, oh, I got to give you pushback. I'm going to run out of people to call in a week. I said, no, you're not. There's 1 million of them out there, and they're multiplying like rabbits. She says, oh, well, here's other pushback. I'm not a salesperson. And I said, good. I don't have to retrain you then. Here's what you're going to say when you call them. If you call a meeting planner, you say, if you'd be open to a conversation about booking me as a speaker to talk about my upcoming book, Growing Your Dental Business, that'd be great. Or if you call a dentist, you say, if you'd be open to a conversation about having me be a consultant for you around the topic of my new book, Growing Your Dental Business, that would be great. So she started making the phone calls, one a day. Sometimes she got enthused and would call more than one a day. Meanwhile, we wrote the book. Then we published the book, Growing Your Dental Business. And Penny said, oh, good, so I don't have to make those phone calls anymore. I said, oh, no. You still have to make the phone calls, and you have to do one more thing. You have to mail a copy of this book every day. A copy of this book in the mail is going to cost you $10. This is a $200 a month business development program. She said, who am I going to send them to? And I said, people who book speakers to talk to dentists and dentists who might hire a consultant. Well, Penny started doing that. I'm going to fast forward 2 years. 2 years later, we're in front of Penny's computer. She's looking at her QuickBooks P&L for the year, and she presses the print button, pulls off the P&L statement, profit and loss, and under gross profit, it says $200,000. $100,000 from speaking, $100,000 from consulting. That's the power of what we're talking about. Meanwhile, she sold enough books to pay for what it cost for her to publish the book. Now, Penny gave me permission to tell this story. I tell it, and if you've heard it before, it's not because I forgot I told it before. It's so that you'll remember this story because it has all the secrets that we're going to talk about today in it. Penny had 2 caveats. One, she said, don't make my ex-husband the villain of this story. He's not. We just didn't want to be married anymore. And 2, you need to tell him it's up to $280,000 a year. So that's the power of this. An expert with a book can speak in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. If you write the right book. I see a lot of people write the wrong book, and I see them publish the wrong book. You've probably seen the wrong book too. So let's talk about these things. Hi, I'm Henry DeVries. Thanks for coming. Thanks for accepting my invitation to talk about marketing with a book and a speech. I run a company called Indie Books International. We're 6 years old. Our focus is helping independent consultants attract high-paying clients by marketing with a book and a speech. Our brand is generosity. We give a lot of information away for free. We just think we're luckier. The more people we help in general, the luckier we get in business. So that's what we want to do. As a professional speaker, I speak on how to persuade with a story. So I go around the country. When I used to go around the country, now I do it virtually on Zoom and talk about how to persuade with a story. Now, in fact, in the last 10 years, I have helped ghostwrite, edit, publish, coach 300 business books into existence, including my international bestseller I co-authored with Tom Searcy called How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett, now in Chinese. As a result of working with me, independent consultants report they have much more impact and influence. They also have more money in the bank. It's not about the money. It's about the impact and influence, though you have to get the money part right. So a lot of things I talk about is getting the money part right. Because if you don't get the money part right, you're not going to be around to help people. I think one of our favorite restaurants right now, because this pandemic is on the brink, and I love their food, I love the people, but they've always had a problem getting the money side right. The name of the restaurant is Sushi and Joy. Steve is the sushi chef and speaks very little English. He does things like he posts signs up all over the restaurant that says, no beef or chicken. Because he says, people all the time ask for beef and chicken. I serve fish. And I can't really explain to him that maybe if people ask for beef and chicken teriyaki, he should serve that. He had another sign up that said, no more all-you-can-eat sushi. And because he was offering $25 all-you-can-eat sushi. And I said, well, too many people were ordering it. And I couldn't explain to him, why don't you just keep raising the price? Maybe it's $35 all-you-can-eat sushi or $40 all-you-can-eat sushi, and he'd make a profit on it. Anyway, that's about getting the money right. We have to get the money right. So I talk about that. On a personal note, so you get to know me, I'm a baseball nut. I have visited 43 Major League Baseball parks, and I have 3 to go before I touch them all. I have to get to Miami. They're building a new one in Texas. And then I've just learned that the Toronto Blue Jays during the pandemic, they have to play in Buffalo. So that has now made Buffalo a new Major League Baseball park. So when all this calms down and I can travel, I'll shuffle off to Buffalo and see that stadium too, so I can add it to the list. Thanks for being here today. Okay, let's talk about writing a book, publishing a book, promoting a book. So writing a book, the most important thing is to write the right book. In Penny Reid's title, Growing Your Dental Business, a lot of times I say, dare to be straightforward. Who is this book for, and what is the outcome you're promising? The book needs to promise to solve a problem that a certain group of people have. When I have my intensive 3-hour sessions with authors, and I've got some of those coming up, if you're interested, email me. But for 3 hours, we get together on Zoom and we create the book outline. And we understand what story we're telling, what problem we're solving, what's the promise of this book, how are we going to bake in marketing to the book so it's going to serve you. There are 8 great stories that all business books should tell. So you need to know which one of the 8 great stories. Is yours an overcoming a monster problem story? Is it an underdog story, a David versus Goliath, rags to riches kind of story? Is it a comedy solution or a tragedy solution? Comedy is a wacky idea. Tragedy business books I don't really recommend. There's very few that work, but they're cautionary tales. The Big Short, barbarians at the gate, too big to fail. Now there's the mystery story, cracking a code, solving a riddle. There's a quest, you're after a prize. My How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett is a quest story. Are you writing about a journey, a lifetime journey, lessons learned? That is a quest. There's also the redemption story, the rebirth story, the comeback story. These stories are the phoenix rising. Everything's wiped out, and then how do you come back from that? And then there's the escape story, where you're in a normal place, you go to a crazy place, and you go to a normal place. Now, all movies follow these patterns. I met the Hollywood producer who said, we only make 8 movies in Hollywood. There's basically these 8 stories. I also found the 100 greatest business books of all time follow one of these 8 stories. Story matters because it tells you what outline you should use. Usually it's some variation of why this is a problem, how to solve it, and what's next after you've learned to solve it. So you follow in that pattern. Now for writing a book, I follow the 10 bucket formula. Every book can be broken down into 10 chapters, 10 lessons, 10 buckets. So you do your research, you do your gathering, you get your articles. You can do this digitally. You can do this, the old-fashioned file folder way. But you gather information for each bucket, each chapter, and then you attack it a chapter at a time. How do you eat a whale? One steak at a time. For the vegetarians, they said I should try how do you eat a tree? It just doesn't seem to have the same ring to me. But it's just a story of how do you break down anything big? You break it down into smaller pieces. And when I teach people on writing, there are different ways you should write the first 2 chapters, the why and the how chapters. And then there's a different way you write the middle chapters, which are the how-to chapters. There's a different way that you write the end chapters. So there are formulas. So learn the formulas. The formulas are your friend, and you can write it. Timing, I recommend people spend a half day a week writing their book. I think it's easier when I work with people in a 12-week engagement. I tell them it's easier to write a book in 12 weeks than it is in 6 months to a year because of momentum and keeping the brain on this. When you take pauses in between writing, then it's like a steam locomotive that the steam locomotive stopped and 2 weeks go by. Well, then you'd have to fire up the furnace and heat up the steam and then get the thing going. It's much better if you kept the locomotive going. I'm a train nut too. I'm not crazy, I just like trains. So that's my analogy for momentum, just keeping it going. Half a day a week, you can get a first draft done in 8 weeks, and then I say any book worth writing is worth writing a first draft that sucks. The magic is in the rewrite. It's those next 4 weeks. The important thing is your stories. The world does not need another business book. It has all the business books it needs. I'm not discouraging you. I'm telling you the good news. It needs your stories. Your stories matter. And your stories matter in the book that illustrate the points that you're making. Because when this Zoom call, this Zoominar we call it, when this Zoominar is long over, what are you going to remember? You'll probably remember the Penny Reed story, or this person named Penny who went out there and turned it around by talking to dentists, because stories are what our brains are hardwired for. So you need your stories matter, and that's what makes your book different than any other person's book, is getting your stories in. And If you want a book on storytelling, just email me and I'll send you a copy of my book, Persuade with a Story. It tells you how to tell these stories. When I do author retreats, I'm doing one this week with 12 authors, a lot of it is teaching them how to tell stories about their book. And when you get to the stage, when you get in front of people, because a book is your #1 marketing tool to attract clients. Speaking about the book is the #1 marketing strategy. And publishing that book, which in one way, I say, you know, it used to be like a PhD. I think now it's like getting a high school equivalency diploma. It's not super hard to publish a book if you're persistent, if you're willing to hang in there and get a first draft done, revise the second draft, go through a publishing process, find a publisher that's right for you. And then the book is the starting line, not the finish line. You need to love your book, and you need to get other people to love your book. You get them to love your book by talking about your book. In the author retreat I'm teaching, there's 16 different ways an author gets booked as a speaker. And yes, it's still working during the pandemic. My message to you, I hope it's encouraging, but this pandemic isn't going away very quickly. And I'm not an expert on anything, but I just look at some big companies are saying their workers aren't coming back for at least a year. I think they have some good analysts. I used to be an analyst for a big corporation. I spent my days looking at all the signs and trends and research studies and telling us advising senior management where we should go. Well, they've got smarter people than me advising them, and they're saying this is not going for a while. American Airlines, some moves they've just made. Marriott, moves they've just made. So we're hunkered down in here. My hope is a vaccine comes and people are willing to take it, and I get back live in front of people, but I'm not betting on it, and neither should you. Let's bet on what's going on right now. Okay, publishing. There's basically some options. There's traditional publishing. There's self-publishing, which I call the S word, like a dirty word. Don't use it again. Never say your book is self-published. You might indie publish the book. That's the third choice. Indie is a hybrid between traditional and self. Indie publishing is you retain ownership, you retain creative control, you do not give away your intellectual property rights. You get experts who have published books for years to make sure your book looks like the right book. Looks, smells, tastes like a book. It has all the right elements. It's been edited to something called the Chicago Manual of Style. This is only 1,065 pages. It's the Bible of the publishing industry. So you're published to that style. By the way, look, this is the newspaper style book that I grew up on. There are a lot more rules in books than there are in newspapers and magazines. And they're different rules. So you want to make sure you're edited to that style. Then it's about getting the book on ebook platforms. More than half of business books are purchased as ebooks. 80% of Kindle. Kindle from Amazon is the gorilla, is the 800-pound gorilla. So you don't just do them though. You also should be on Nook, which is Barnes & Noble, and iBooks from the Apple platform, and 12 others. We're also encouraging people to do an Audible book. If your readers are under 40, they respect authors and books. They don't have time to read them. They listen to books and they listen to podcasts. They're listeners. Also, well, let's talk promotion. Now, you've published the book, and traditional is where they pay you a royalty, basically 15% of the profits, and they keep 85%. They don't give you any money. They give you your money. They just hold it. And they don't give you all the money that you earn. Let me tell you about that, but that's another story. With an indie publisher, you're paying them to do it, like an indie film or an indie record label. You're keeping probably 85% of the profits. One of my authors is published with a big New York City traditional publisher, and he's published with us, and he says, hey, you know, Henry, I make more money with indie books than I do with my New York publisher. And I said, I know, I make more money with my indie published book than with my New York traditionally published book. I just like to say there's a reason they can afford to have a 45-story office building in Manhattan. And it's not because of being generous in how they pay authors. Indie Books was formed by two best-selling authors, Mark LeBlanc and myself, and we wanted to create a deal where the publisher is on the side of the author. So that's our setup. Okay, but you wrote the book. You published the book. The book is out there. There are 7 ways, the top 7 ways to promote that book. I call it the Magnificent 7, after the cowboy movie of the same name. So the Magnificent 7 ways. I'm going to go through the Magnificent 7 ways, and I'm going to have some help in doing this. Let me do a quick recap of what they are and spend a little time. Okay, number 1, small-scale seminars. In the digital world, we're calling them Zoominars. I do 2 of these a month. I've been two a month since March. Number 2 is getting booked as a speaker to give a how-to speech about the topic of your book. Now, live speaking opportunities have gone away for a while. Speaking opportunities still exist. I'm on the committee booking speakers for a national association. I've been booked to give paid presentations. There's all sorts of things that are happening, including podcasts. I've got to tell you, the secret weapon right now is podcasts, because people are assembling audiences and they need to change speakers, and that can be you. And I'll tell you, I'm getting business when I speak on podcasts. Number 3 is getting published. Of course, getting your book published, but it's a spectrum. One end of the spectrum is using LinkedIn as a publishing platform. We used to recommend blog sites, now we recommend LinkedIn. I'm a columnist with Forbes.com. Here's an offer. If any of you have an idea for a Forbes column where I would interview you, send me an email to henry@indie.books.com. Devin, why don't you put that in the chat so they can do it. So if you have an idea for a Forbes column, subject line Forbes, send it to me. I am paid to do 5 columns a month. I got to find 5 columns a month. So I'm looking for story ideas. It could be you. Number 4 is find your target rich association where your audience gathers and do volunteer work for them. Number 5 is network at those volunteer organizations. I volunteer for the Institute of Management Consultants. We're doing our conference, our big national conference, online this year. And by the way, it's going to be the most successful conference we've had in 6 years, with the number of people who are attending and the level of speakers we're able to get. So we're very excited about the virtual conference world. And now we're looking at, okay, how do we use Zoom with breakout rooms and all that so networking happens? People are waking up that we need networking, and there are ways for it. Number 6 is about getting your internet game plan together, and that's LinkedIn and that's YouTube. And do a lot of YouTube videos. You can use Zoom. I'm doing Zoom interviews with successful authors and posting them onto YouTube. LinkedIn. We'll tell you more about LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has been a secret weapon for us. And number 7 is a paid workshop. A paid workshop, these are happening now. At first in the pandemic, nobody wanted to charge anything. Now we realize, okay, life goes on. People still need information. They need help solving their problems. And if you have information that's valuable that people would pay time and money to get, you should be doing something. For instance, my retreats. I used to do these live. Now I'm doing these 2-day author retreats. It starts at $1,000 for 2 days with me on working on how to promote a book. And then I'll do a follow-up 90-minute call one-on-one with people to do it. We've sold out the last 2 retreats. Next one we're going to offer is in January. So we've talked to other people. They're doing these $365 3-hour sessions. People are signing up. So what is it that you could offer? Okay, so there are the top 7 things, but the number 1 thing is the small scale seminar. And I'd like to bring Devin on to talk about the small scale seminar. Devin runs the small scale seminars for the authors at Indie Books. And Devin, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Henry. So small scale seminars have been a game changer for us, and they have helped us grow our business over the last 6 years. And we've been able to help our clients use the same strategy to attract clients to their business. So what do we mean when we say a small scale seminar? This is an example of one. So the idea is that it's a generous offering of information to a small group of people so that you can have a genuine connection, you can have interaction. By keeping the group smaller, you're able to do those things. And we find that makes people respond a lot better and really, have follow-up steps with you. And what you want to do is, present some sort of information that's going to help them. So a specific problem or topic that's on their mind, and then freely give your information. Don't try to add in any sales things or there's always a fear of the bait and switch with people's minds. So if you just genuinely give your time and information and then don't try to sell them on anything, they are going to be very impressed and want to learn more about what you do. I'll share a quick story to show how powerful this can be. About 6 years ago when we started Indie Books International, Henry knew that we needed to make some strategic partnerships in the industry so that we could better serve our clients and grow our business. So he had done some research and found that the #1 public relations company for authors was a firm based out of Tampa, Florida, called News and Experts. And he was able to get a call with their CEO, Marcia. And they had a nice, kind of opening conversation, and, maybe we could be a referral source for them and they could refer to us. And it kind of ended like those calls often do with, well, this all sounds great. And Marcia said, next time you're in Florida, why don't you come by the office and we'll talk more. So Henry hangs up the phone, comes out to me in my office and asks, when's the next open date on our calendar? I said, well, about 3 weeks from now, the beginning of September. He said, great, we're going to Florida. Okay. And he calls Marcia back up, says, oh, it just so happens I'm going to be in Orlando the first weekend of September. Great. So they made an appointment to meet up. She said, what's bringing you to Florida? He said, well, I'm doing my marketing with a book and speech summit. She said, well, that sounds very interesting. I'd like to come to that too. Okay. So here we are. We have 3 weeks to fill a room so we don't look like posers in front of the CEO we're trying to impress. But here's the problem. We're a new company based out of Southern California. We know nobody in Florida. Our constant contact database has 0 people in that region of the country. So what were we going to do? And that's when we turned to LinkedIn. And what I love about LinkedIn is all that information we all write into our profiles is searchable. So we were able to figure out, who is our target audience. So for us, we're looking for, consultants, independent professionals. You can search by job title. So if heads of marketing is your target audience, or, VPs of sales. You can search that way. You can also search by organizations. So, Institute of Management Consultants that Henry mentioned, or Vistage, those are both target-rich groups for us. So all of that is something that you can filter by on LinkedIn. And then, of course, location. So in this instance, Florida. So I'll pause for just 1 second to share a personal note about myself. I love that I can basically work anywhere in the world with Wi-Fi, which this year has proven. But if I could choose one place in the world to have my office, it would be on Main Street of Disneyland. I am a Disney nut. Henry knows this about me. And he also believes in setting goals with incentives. So he said, if you can get 12 people to sign up for this event in 3 weeks' time, I'll buy you a ticket to Disney World while we're in Florida. So to me, that was like, challenge accepted. And I used a simple 2-step approach for LinkedIn. So as I explained, I was able to figure out our who, and then all we do is send a simple opening kind of sentence to the connection request. So when you send a connection request on LinkedIn, there's usually a place you can add a note. And all we would say was, would you be open to an invitation to be my guest at an event I'm hosting for consultants in Orlando? And that was all. So kind of a really simple knock on the door, not pushy. If they accepted our connection invite, then we would follow it up with a 1-paragraph invitation to our no-cost workshop. It's real short to the point. It's about 1 paragraph with a link to our website if they want more information. I'm happy to send examples if you want to see kind of how we word it. But the idea is to not be salesy, to be brief and to the point, because people don't have time. You have maybe 10 seconds to grab their attention. So you want to make sure that you get right to the point of, what your topic is and who it's for. And then, it's just a numbers game. So I sent it to as many consultants as I could find within a 2-hour drive of Orlando. And in the end, I was able to get 15 people to sign up for the event. Marcia came, we had a great meeting. We still work with her and her firm to this day. In fact, to this date, one of our largest contracts was a referral from Marcia. And she has done amazing stuff for our authors, getting them on radio and national television through her PR. So it's been a great relationship. But that's not even the best part of the story. We wrote business that covered the expense of that entire trip before we even left California, all as a direct result of those LinkedIn messages. So we had 2 people who got the message. One said, oh, I can't make that date, but I've been looking for a ghostwriter. Can we talk? And he ended up hiring Henry to help him with his book. And then the second one, and this is an interesting kind of side effect of this strategy, is when you send an invite, they're going to look at your profile. And this person had seen that Henry is a Vistage speaker. And he said, I've been trying to get into the Vistage speaking world. Can you help me with that? And he bought 2 coaching sessions, and Henry helped him with his application and how to structure a Vistage presentation, which again, isn't even our main business, but it's a nice side purchase. But so that's the point, is that it gets you out there, it gets you talking to people, it shows that you're an expert, that you have stuff to share, and that you're generous with sharing it. And like I said, it was a game changer for our business. We did an analysis a few months ago of all of our clients, and over 80% of our clients could be tracked back to this strategy, either directly from attending one of our events or indirectly as a referral from somebody who came to the event. So that's how powerful it can be. And I know we had a question about, things are different now. So that it was an example of an in-person event. But just kind of fortuitously at the beginning of this year, we had decided we wanted to travel a little bit less, and we wanted to try the virtual version of our Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit. So we actually had started that in January. And then by the time April rolled around, we were 100% virtual, but at least we had a couple months under our belt to practice and to show strategy works the same way. So we have been able to use LinkedIn the exact same way to fill all of our virtual events. So if you have the right topic for the right audience, they will respond to it. So happy to share information about it. We have a white paper, and happy to answer questions. And with that, I will turn it back over to Henry.
Thank you, Devin. Good job. I love Devin's story because I'm the nemesis character. I'm the villain character in the story. I'm the boss who just says, oh yeah, we'll do it, and then comes out and leaves it to Devin to figure it out. But Devin's the plucky hero of that story because she figures out how to do it. And it's working in the virtual world too. Her line about we decided to travel less in 2020. Well, we got our wish. We got our travel less wish. Matter of fact, I have $4,000 worth of airline tickets from American and Southwest that are now, when I want to, I can cash them in. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to use those, but they're there waiting on the sidelines. But that's the power of all that. I know Bob had posted, Bob Graham had posted the question, well, is it working now? Here's what we're seeing right now as far as the speaking world. For Vistage, which Devin mentioned, the CEO peer-to-peer group, I'm still giving Vistage talks, but they've been on Zoom. So Vistage has just come out with a new policy for when people feel safe traveling again. We'll do an option of live or on Zoom. And it'll cost the Vistage chair who books us a lot less if they do it on Zoom, because they don't have to pay my travel. So there's that going on. One of our authors, she speaks in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. So one of her talks that was for $10,000, people wanted to do it on Zoom and pay her $5,000. But she'd rather have the $5,000 and not leave her house than get the $10,000 with the several days involved in traveling to and from some place. So we're seeing other things like that. I know some $5,000 presentations. For me, I've done 2 hours on Zoom for $1,500. And I liked that very much because I didn't have to travel to do it. The opportunity cost of traveling, and I love to travel, and I try to be productive on the road. You just can't be as productive as you are in the home base. I'm in what I call the situation room. This is my office at Indie Books, and it has all my tools. I can reach to my right hand and bring out that Chicago Manual of Style. So that's the power of being here. Okay, let's talk about the ladder. This is something I call the ladder or the menu. I did a 10-year, $3 million research study on how consultants and professionals get hired when over $10,000 is at stake. So in my studies on that, one of the things I found out is clients like options. So you need to give them options. You also need to give them a menu. Here's what they said you're the worst at. All these people who hire consultants, we did focus groups and depth interviews, and they said they're the worst at talking about money. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, it's like you go into a restaurant and there's no menu. And you say, oh, well, what would you like? And you go, well, I don't know, maybe chicken? Chicken. There's a lot that goes into chicken. May I ask you a few chicken questions? What kind of chicken have you had in the past? What was your satisfaction with that chicken? If I could solve all your chicken problems, what would that be worth to you? What kind of value could we place on that? He says, it's just so frustrating. What the client wants is a menu. So one menu you can give them is what I call the staircase. And the staircase is free talks on Zoom, a book, a workbook, a 90-minute pinpoint session consulting, a series of pinpoints, a workshop, things that build up to a consulting arrangement. And you should be happy wherever people come in on that staircase, that menu of choices. I like the imagery of a staircase leading up rather than some people talk about the marketing funnel. like it's some meat grinder, we're sending prospects in and grinding it, and then the clients come out at the bottom. Not good imagery. I prefer a more positive imagery there. One of the things on your menu, and this was a game changer when I learned this, is a no cost, no obligation, no kidding strategy call. So I call mine a book chat. Other people call theirs a virtual coffee talk. I'm going to offer it to you. It's a legitimate offer, and I'll teach you how you can use it. It's a game changer. Who buys something for over $1,000 where they don't have a meaningful conversation with somebody? So offer to have meaningful conversation. So here's my offer. If you want to have a book chat with me, it's one-on-one. It's a non-selling zone. I'll help you get clear on your goals, your assets to get this book done and promoted, your roadblocks. What are your roadblocks? Roadblocks don't stop you, but they slow you down. You got to get over them, under them, through them, around them. And then finally, I'll help you get clear on how others have gotten from where you are right now to where you want to go. So, legitimate offer, Henry at Indie Books INTL. Or if you rather have the book chat with Devin, she's great. I've posted both of our email addresses in the chat box. So we'll spend the time with you, help you get clear on those questions. If it's more about the strategy for small scale seminars, have it with Devin. Either way is good with us. Now, you should also offer the same. Whatever you offer, could you talk to people and have a non-selling zone conversation about their goals, the assets, the things that they've done right and what they've got going for them, their roadblocks as they perceive them, and then this is where your supercomputer is needed, how others have gotten from where they are to where they want to go. The Penny Reed story, Devin's story about us in Florida, that's to show that we're not posers or wannabes. We've actually been there, done that. We know how to take people from the A to the Z in that situation. You do too. So what stories could you tell at that part of the conversation to help them? Because your stories matter. Your stories matter. If I leave you with one thought, that's it. Your stories matter. In the book, in the presentation, one-on-one, because they help people. We need those stories. We need those stories to know that we could overcome a big problem, or that we could come back from an issue, or we could escape a problem, or we could go on a quest and get the prize in our life that we want. If there's a mystery bothering us, we could crack the code, solve the puzzle. That's what your stories do for people. They help them in that way. I want to leave you with one story. It's about Bill Wooditch. I wish you could have been there the time I got the phone call from Bill Wooditch. I didn't know Bill Wooditch was a big deal. He is. He owns a big company in Orange County, California, but he was on the phone with me and he said, Henry, you don't know who I am. That's okay. But I know the 4 magic words in the English language. I said, well, I'm curious, Bill, what are the 4 magic words? And he said, I know a guy. He said, I've been asking around for something I really want, and people have been saying, I know a guy, Henry DeVries. I said, wow, that's a lot of pressure, Bill. What is it, this thing that you want? And he said, I want to be a professional speaker and a best-selling author. Whoa, I said, Bill, that's a mountain you want to climb. You want to climb a mountain. Bill persuaded me to come to Orange County and spend the afternoon with him and talk about how this could happen. He persuaded me by paying me $1,000 to travel up and spend the afternoon with him. Bill was 58 years old and at a crossroads. He was a multimillionaire. He owned the Wooditch companies. They're a company that insures large construction projects, the ones with all those cranes and all those people. Bill's company does that. And he had 100 people working for him, and they loved him. They said Bill was the most motivational boss they'd ever had. He really inspired them. He taught them. He took them in when they didn't know anything about the business and taught them everything and how to be problem solvers and make six figures. And they said, here's the kicker. If we didn't have the right clothes to wear when we started, Bill bought us the right clothes. Bill said, yeah, it's been great motivating these 100 people, but I'm at this crossroads. I didn't get what I wanted in life. I said, how's that? He said, well, first, he confided. He said, I never met her. I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, I looked for her for decades. I couldn't find her. He couldn't find the right woman to build a life with. So he said, I poured all my energy into the business. The business was the family. It's what I grew. And I grew this. And it's great motivating 100 people, don't get me wrong. But I want to motivate 10,000 people at a time. I said, oh my gosh, Bill, it's not a mountain you want to climb. You want to climb Mount Everest. There is something in his passion. And if somebody has a burning desire, you want to help them. So I said, if you want to climb Mount Everest, I'm your Sherpa, let's go. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Bill was a blogger, and he had blogged 90,000 words. It about broke his heart when I said, not these words, or at least not 2/3 of them. Save them for another book. I got him a speaking engagement at a Fortune 500 company, Qualcomm. 100 C-level executives in the audience. One came to me afterwards and said, Henry, oh my gosh, that Bill Wooditch is dynamic. Bill Wooditch is passionate. I have no idea what Bill Wooditch is talking about. So we had to refine the message. We refined the message. We published the book, Always Forward, became a bestseller through a campaign for the digital books, the books on Kindle first. We got him interviews with print journalists. We got him interviews with radio shows, local TV shows, and then the big break came, the Steve Harvey Show. And not for 5 minutes, not on a panel, 45 minutes of the show dedicated to Bill helping audience members get past their fears and move always forward. Steve Harvey liked him so much, booked him 3 times as a guest with follow-up. Well, I have to tell you, 10,000 people did not hear Bill Wooditch speak that day. 2 million people heard Bill Wooditch speak that day, and every time he went on the Steve Harvey Show. We call it graduating. He got his second book. He used some of those 60,000 words and published with McGraw-Hill, had a bestseller there. He's speaking now at $15,000 a speech to large audiences of 500, 1,000 people and telling them how to move forward in their lives. Now, when it was all done, I asked Bill if I could take him to dinner. And, you know, I'm a cheap Dutchman, not McDonald's or Denny's. I took him to a nice steak restaurant where he took me out to dinner once. And I said, Bill, I just wanted to tell you, you proved it to me. You know, it took 2 years. You were willing to climb the mountain. And he got all choked up. And he said, those were the words I wanted to hear most of all. So that was a 2-year process, a 2-year process of getting a book done. I think that's 3 to 4 months you can get a book written. Publishing, 3 to 4 months, get a book published, indie publish the book. The investment's going to be $10,000 to $20,000 in this whole thing. It's not all up front. It's over a couple of years. Some of it is buying books. But here's the thing. You sell 1,000 books, which is doable, and you get all the publishing money back. So it's a zero net investment. Our studies show that people who keep at it, who apply our formula for doing the basic things, speaking twice a month, sending out 20 books a month, getting some publicity every month, they can sell those 1,000 books, and they get an ROI of 4x to 20x, 400 to 2,000%. We have people on record as saying they're making an extra $250,000 a year, not just Penny, but others, as a result of marketing with a book and a speech. The book doesn't promote the author. The author promotes the book, and they get the reflection of the spotlight on them that increases their practice. And you have to ask yourself, if you wrote a book, would you get more speaking engagements? Would you get more publicity? Would you get more clients? The answer is, of course. So if you want that book chat with Devin or I, send us a note. Happy to do it. If you want the white paper from Devin, send her a note, ask for the white paper. If you want to be considered for a Forbes column, just send me an email with Forbes in the subject line, and I'll send you back instructions. So we also do a second Zoom call a month. Love to have you on that. We get into more specifics, how to get booked as a speaker, how to position yourself as an expert in 30 days, topics like that. Please check out the events page on Indie Books International. Last message is, you can do this. You can position yourself as an expert. You can attract clients, and all you have to do is get started. Thanks for paying attention today. Thanks for being with us. If we can help, let us know. So bye, everybody. I don't know why we wave on Zoom.